a major financial announcement that millions can't ignore. If you're feeling stretched thin right now, you're not alone. Across the country, many Americans, especially seniors and families on fixed incomes, are watching prices rise faster than their sense of financial security. And that's exactly why the announcement made last night by President Trump has caught so much attention. This was not a vague policy speech or a campaign-style promise. It was a direct address outlining three major financial developments that could impact real household budgets, starting immediately and extending into the next few years. According to the administration, these announcements focus on three areas people care deeply about: direct payments, taxes, and interest rates. First, there are brand new checks being sent out right now to a specific group of Americans. Second, there are tax changes being positioned as some of the most significant in decades, with the potential to create much larger tax refunds beginning in 2026. And third, there are confirmed changes coming to the Federal Reserve that could influence mortgage rates, loan costs, and overall borrowing conditions. The White House is calling this a major financial win. But as always, headlines don't pay the bills, details do. That's why it's critical to slow this down, remove the hype, and look carefully at what was actually announced, who qualifies, who doesn't, and what these changes realistically mean for your money. In this video series, we're going to break everything down step by step. No political spin, no confusing jargon, just clear, practical information so you can understand what's happening and decide how or if it affects your financial situation. Three announcements tied to real money and real policy. When President Trump stepped before the nation, he didn't focus on abstract goals or long-term theories. Instead, he outlined three specific actions that the administration says are already in motion or about to take effect. And what makes these announcements different is that they are directly connected to real dollars, money that affects paychecks, benefit checks, tax filings, and monthly bills. The first announcement centered on immediate cash payments. These are not projections or future proposals. According to the president, checks are being sent out right now to a defined group of Americans. That immediacy is what caused many people to sit up and pay attention, especially during a time when inflation and rising costs continue to strain household budgets. The second announcement focused on taxes, particularly changes that would reshape how much money Americans keep versus how much they send to the IRS. The administration claims these changes could result in significantly larger tax refunds starting in 2026. For seniors, workers, and families alike, this raises an important question. Will this actually put more money in your pocket, or just change when you receive it? The third announcement involved the Federal Reserve. The president confirmed plans to influence future interest rate policy by appointing leadership that favors lower rates. This could impact mortgage payments, credit card interest, auto loans, and even the returns retirees earn on savings accounts. Together, these three announcements form a single message: financial relief now, potential tax relief later, and lower borrowing costs ahead. But as we'll see, the benefits are not evenly distributed, and not everyone will feel relief in the same way. Immediate cash, what the new checks are really about. Out of all three announcements, the one that grabbed the most attention was the promise of immediate cash. In times of financial stress, nothing feels more real than money arriving now, not months from now, not after another tax season, but right away. And that's exactly how the administration framed this first move. President Trump introduced a new one-time payment called the Warrior Dividend. According to his statement, this payment is designed as a direct thank you to active duty military service members. More than 1.45 million troops are expected to receive this money, with checks scheduled to arrive before Christmas. Each eligible service member will receive a one-time payment of $1,776. The number itself is symbolic, referencing the year 1776, when the United States declared independence. The administration emphasized that this was not a random figure, but a deliberate nod to the nation's founding and the service of those currently in uniform. Importantly, the White House says this money is being funded through tariff revenue combined with budget savings. In other words, they claim these payments are not coming from new government borrowing. That distinction matters, especially to seniors who worry about rising national debt and how it could affect future benefits like Social Security and Medicare. However, while the announcement sounds generous on the surface, it also raises immediate questions. Who exactly qualifies? How fast will these payments arrive? And just as importantly, who is being left out. Those details make all the difference. And they're where the real conversation begins. Who qualifies for the Warrior Dividend and who does not? Once the excitement around a new check begins to settle, the most important question becomes very simple. Who actually qualifies to receive this money? And just as important, who does not? The answers to those questions shape whether this announcement feels like relief or like disappointment. According to the administration, eligibility for the Warrior Dividend is extremely narrow. The payment is limited strictly to active duty military service members. That includes individuals currently serving in the Army, Navy, Air Force, Marines, Space Force, and Coast Guard. If you are actively serving today, you are included. If not, you are excluded. That means several large groups of Americans who have served the country will not receive this payment. Veterans who have already completed their service do not qualify. Military retirees do not qualify. Disabled veterans do not qualify. Surviving spouses and military families who are no longer on active duty do not qualify either. For many people watching this announcement, that exclusion was painful. A significant number of veterans are living on fixed incomes, dealing with health challenges, or struggling to cover basic expenses. Seeing active duty troops receive a $1,776 payment while they receive nothing has sparked frustration and emotional reactions, and those feelings are understandable. This distinction also clarifies what the Warrior Dividend is not. It is not a veteran benefit, it is not a military pension increase, and it is not connected to long-term programs like VA compensation. It is a narrowly targeted one-time payment aimed at a specific group at a specific moment in time. Understanding that limitation is critical before making assumptions about broader financial relief. A one-time payment, not long-term financial security. As helpful as an extra check can feel, it's important to understand exactly what the Warrior Dividend represents and what it does not. This payment is a one-time distribution, not a recurring benefit. That distinction matters, especially for households trying to plan beyond the next few weeks. The administration has been clear that the $1,776 payment is not a raise, not a permanent increase in military pay, and not a new ongoing program. It will not show up again next month. It will not automatically repeat next year. Once it arrives, that's it, at least under the current announcement. For many military families, this money can provide short-term relief. It may help cover holiday expenses, catch up on utility bills, reduce credit card balances, or create a small emergency cushion. In that sense, it's real help at a real moment of need. But from a long-term financial stability perspective, one-time payments rarely change the bigger picture. They don't adjust monthly income, they don't protect against rising housing costs, medical expenses, or long-term inflation. And they don't replace the predictability that comes from permanent wage increases or guaranteed benefits. There's also uncertainty about whether payments like this could happen again. Because this dividend is tied to tariff revenue and specific budget conditions, critics question whether it was made possible by timing rather than a sustainable funding source. That doesn't erase its value, but it does limit how much people should rely on similar payments in the future. For seniors watching closely, this serves as a reminder. Short-term relief can help, but lasting financial security usually comes from consistent income and stable benefits, not one-time checks. The 2026 tax changes that could reshape household budgets. After discussing immediate payments, President Trump shifted to an announcement with far broader reach. Major tax changes set to take effect beginning in 2026. Unlike the Warrior Dividend, which applies to a narrow group, these tax changes could affect tens of millions of Americans across different income levels and stages of life. According to the president, these changes are part of what he described as the One Big Beautiful Bill, a package he claims delivers the largest tax cuts in American history. The administration says these reforms could result in significantly larger tax refunds during the 2026 filing season, with some families potentially saving between $11,000 and $20,000 per year. For many Americans, especially seniors living on fixed incomes, that kind of claim immediately raises hope, but also skepticism. Bigger refunds sound appealing, but they don't always mean lower financial stress throughout the year. That's why understanding what's actually changing inside the tax code matters far more than the headline number. The administration highlighted 3 specific provisions as the centerpiece of this plan. No federal tax on Social Security benefits, no tax on tips, and no tax on overtime pay. Each of these changes targets a different group, but together they represent a significant shift in how earned and retirement income could be treated going forward. For retirees receiving Social Security, this announcement carries particular weight. Many seniors currently pay federal income taxes on a portion of their Social Security benefits, which reduces already limited monthly cash flow. Eliminating that tax, at least on paper, could mean more money staying in retirees' pockets instead of being sent to the IRS. But as we'll see next, tax changes don't always work exactly the way they sound, and timing, withholding, and IRS implementation will play a critical role in determining who actually benefits. No federal tax on Social Security. What seniors need to understand: for millions of retirees, Social Security is not just a supplement, it is the foundation of monthly income. That's why one of the most significant tax changes mentioned in the announcement was the proposal to eliminate federal taxes on Social Security benefits. On the surface, this sounds like an immediate win for seniors, but as always, the real impact depends on the details. Currently, many retirees pay federal income taxes on a portion of their Social Security benefits depending on their total income. For some households, up to 85% of their Social Security income can be subject to federal tax. That means money intended to support basic living expenses is partially redirected back to the government. If this tax is removed, seniors could see more of their monthly benefits stay in their checking accounts. Over the course of a year, that could amount to thousands of dollars in additional usable income, money that could help cover groceries, prescription drugs, utilities, or rising housing costs. However, there's an important distinction to keep in mind. A larger tax refund does not necessarily mean you had more money available throughout the year. Refunds are heavily influenced by withholding rules and payment timing. What truly matters for retirees is whether less money is taken out month by month, not whether more comes back later. That's why IRS guidance and updated withholding tables for 2026 will be critical. Until those details are finalized, it's impossible to say exactly how much relief individual seniors will feel. For some, the change could be substantial. For others, the difference may be smaller than expected. Still, this proposal represents a meaningful shift in how retirement income is treated, and it's one that seniors should follow closely as 2026 approaches. No tax on tips and overtime. Who benefits the most? While eliminating federal taxes on Social Security is a major development for retirees, the proposed tax changes don't stop there. The administration also highlighted two additional provisions that could significantly increase take-home pay for working Americans: no federal tax on tips and no tax on overtime pay. For workers who rely on tips, this could be a meaningful shift. Servers, bartenders, delivery drivers, salon workers, and others in service industries often depend on tip income to make ends meet. Under the current system, that income is taxable, reducing the amount workers actually keep. Removing federal taxes on tips would allow more money to stay in workers' pockets immediately, rather than being withheld and reconciled later. The same applies to overtime pay. Many Americans, especially those working multiple jobs or picking up extra shifts, depend on overtime to cover rising expenses. Under this proposal, overtime earnings would no longer be subject to federal income tax. That means extra hours worked could translate more directly into extra money available for rent, food, transportation, and medical costs. For older Americans who continue working past traditional retirement age, this change could be especially helpful. Many seniors work part-time or seasonally to supplement Social Security, and tax-free overtime or tip income could improve monthly cash flow without increasing tax complexity. However, as with all tax changes, implementation matters. How employers report income, how withholding is adjusted, and how the IRS enforces compliance will determine how smooth or confusing this transition becomes. Until formal guidance is released, workers should avoid making assumptions and remain cautious. Still, for many households, these provisions could mean more financial breathing room throughout the year, not just at tax time. Bigger tax refunds don't always mean more financial relief. One of the boldest claims in the announcement was that the upcoming tax changes could lead to the largest tax refund season in American history. For many people, especially seniors and working families, that phrase alone sounds like welcome relief. But the truth is more complicated. A larger tax refund does not automatically mean you paid less in taxes overall. In many cases, it simply means more money was withheld from your paychecks throughout the year and then returned later. From a budgeting standpoint, that doesn't always help when bills are due every month. For retirees, this distinction is especially important. What truly improves financial stability is having more money available each month, not waiting for a refund the following year. That's why changes to withholding rules matter just as much, if not more, than the final refund amount. The IRS will play a critical role here. Updated withholding tables for 2026 will determine whether less tax is taken out of Social Security benefits, tip income, or overtime pay during the year. If withholding isn't adjusted properly, some people may still see large refunds but continue struggling month to month. There's also the risk of misunderstanding. Some taxpayers may assume they'll receive large refunds automatically and fail to plan accordingly. Others might adjust withholding too aggressively and face unexpected tax bills later. For seniors and workers alike, the best approach is caution. Wait for official IRS guidance. Review withholding carefully, and if possible, seek professional advice before making changes. Understanding how refunds really work can prevent financial surprises and help you make the most of any tax relief that does arrive. Federal Reserve changes and the push for lower interest rates. The third major announcement may not involve a check in the mail or a line on your tax return, but it could have the widest economic impact of all. President Trump confirmed plans to appoint a new Federal Reserve chair, someone who strongly supports lower interest rates. Interest rates influence almost every corner of the economy. Mortgage payments, auto loans, credit card balances, and even business investment decisions are all shaped by the direction set by the Federal Reserve. By signaling a shift toward lower rates, the administration is positioning this move as a way to reduce financial pressure on households. According to the White House, the average annual cost of a new mortgage is already about $3,000 lower than it was last year, with further declines expected if rates continue to fall. For people looking to buy a home or refinance an existing mortgage, even a small drop in rates can translate into hundreds of dollars in monthly savings. Lower interest rates can also slow the growth of debt. For families carrying credit card balances or personal loans, reduced rates may help lower monthly payments and make debt easier to manage. But as we'll discuss next, lower rates don't benefit everyone equally. While borrowers may gain relief, savers, especially retirees, often face a very different outcome. And that trade-off is something seniors should understand clearly before celebrating falling rates. When lower interest rates hurt retirees and savers. While lower interest rates can feel like a relief for borrowers, they often create challenges for a very different group: retirees and savers. For many older Americans, interest income plays a crucial role in covering everyday expenses, and when rates fall, that income can shrink quickly. Savings accounts, certificates of deposit, and money market funds are all directly affected by Federal Reserve policy. When interest rates decline, the returns on these accounts usually follow. For retirees who rely on this interest to supplement Social Security, even a small drop can make a noticeable difference in monthly income. This creates a difficult trade-off. On one hand, lower rates can help family members, children, or grandchildren who are buying homes or refinancing debt. On the other hand, seniors may see their safe, predictable income streams produce less than before. There's also the issue of risk. When traditional savings yield less, some retirees feel pressure to seek higher returns elsewhere. That can lead to riskier investments that may not align with their financial needs or time horizons. For people in retirement, protecting principal often matters more than chasing higher yields. That's why the pace and depth of rate cuts matter just as much as the direction. Gradual changes allow retirees time to adjust. Sudden drops can create financial stress. Understanding this balance is essential. Lower interest rates are not universally good or bad. They simply affect people differently. And for seniors, being aware of these impacts can help guide smarter financial decisions in a changing rate environment. Official economic numbers versus everyday reality. Following the president's address, the White House released a series of economic statistics meant to reinforce the message that the economy is improving. On paper, the numbers appear encouraging. Inflation is reported to be around 2.7%. Gas prices are said to be under $3 a gallon in most states. Mortgage rates are falling. Prescription drug costs are declining. Wages, according to the data, are rising faster than inflation. Employment is strong, consumer confidence is up, and stock markets are reaching new highs. But for many Americans, especially seniors, those national averages don't always match daily experience. At the grocery store, prices still feel painfully high. Rent increases of $100 or $200 a month are becoming common. Insurance premiums, including homeowners and health insurance, have jumped sharply for many households. This gap between economic data and lived reality is real, and it's important to acknowledge it. Seniors living on fixed incomes often feel rising costs more intensely because their monthly income doesn't automatically adjust to price increases. Even modest inflation can strain budgets when there's little room to absorb it. Economic reports may show improvement, but financial stress is personal. It's measured at the kitchen table, not in national averages. Recognizing that difference helps explain why announcements that sound positive on television may still feel disconnected from everyday life. Understanding both perspectives, the official numbers and the real-world experience, allows people to make better, more realistic financial decisions moving forward. What you should do right now to protect your finances. With so many announcements happening at once, it's easy to feel overwhelmed. But the most important question is not what was said, it's what you should do next. The right steps now can help you avoid missed payments, tax surprises, and even financial scams. If you are an active duty service member, the priority is simple. Make sure your direct deposit information is up to date with the Defense Finance and Accounting Service. Payments like the Warrior Dividend are typically sent automatically, but outdated banking information can cause delays. Checking now can prevent unnecessary stress later. If you are a senior or a Social Security recipient, pay close attention to future IRS guidance. The proposed tax changes won't fully take effect until 2026, but decisions about withholding could affect your monthly cash flow. Avoid making changes until official rules are released, and consider reviewing your situation with a trusted tax professional. For workers who earn tips or overtime, this is a time to stay informed, not reactive. When tax rules change, confusion often follows. Monitor official announcements and be cautious about adjusting withholding too quickly. And for everyone watching, one warning is critical. Beware of scams. You will never be asked to pay a fee, click a special link, or provide banking information to receive these benefits. Anyone claiming otherwise is attempting to steal from you. Being informed, cautious, and proactive is the best defense in times of change. Who truly benefits, who doesn't, and the bigger picture. Ahead. When all the announcements are placed side by side, a clear picture begins to emerge. These changes offer real help to some Americans, limited help to others, and no immediate relief at all for certain groups. And recognizing that reality is essential to understanding what comes next. Active duty military members receiving the Warrior Dividend will feel immediate, tangible relief. Workers earning tips or overtime may see higher take-home pay once tax changes are implemented. Homebuyers and borrowers could benefit if interest rates continue to fall. For these groups, the announcements may translate into noticeable financial breathing room. At the same time, many Americans, particularly veterans, retirees without taxable Social Security income, and seniors relying heavily on interest from savings, may see little direct benefit. In some cases, falling interest rates could even create new challenges by reducing safe, predictable income. That doesn't mean anyone is failing or being left behind by choice. It means policy impacts are uneven, and financial relief rarely reaches everyone in the same way. Understanding that helps prevent unrealistic expectations and financial missteps. The most important takeaway is this: information is power. Knowing what's happening, what's real, what's still uncertain, and what to watch for puts you back in control. Over the coming months, key developments will include how quickly payments are delivered, how the IRS implements tax changes, and who ultimately leads the Federal Reserve. No matter where you fall in this picture, staying informed helps you make smarter decisions. You are not alone in navigating these changes, and with clear information, you can move forward with confidence.